Hi everyone, welcome to the Ziawoolz StudioBuzz podcast episode 29. I am Doug and I live in beautiful New Mexico, the land of enchantment, with my family and with our 2 cats. This is a podcast about knitting, spinning, and the fiber arts, and today it's necessary to speak up about an issue that has been very much a big and important topic in the knitting community in the past weeks. I am not really good at this kind of free talking about something that I've been thinking about so much. I would tend to go on and on and on about it, so I kind of want to keep it a little bit, in a way, brief, but to the necessary points, because I feel it's very important. So you know how recently Instagram and Ravelry, there was a lot of talk, and there is still a lot of talk about racism and about diversity in the knitting community. At first I confess I was taken aback by what was said, and I'm like, well, this doesn't really concern me, and why would I have to make a statement? I mean, I'm not a racist. Why do I need to blurt that out in the world? But, so pardon me for that. I mean, really, because I then started talking to people, started talking to friends, and I realized as I was listening and as I was beginning to understand and to learn, some of the people that I talked to were my local knitting friends, and actually the women in my book club, a group of super smart women. I just treasure them all. And so I started learning about this. I mean, not alone as a German who doesn't know that much about it from where I grew up, but also as a part of the knitting community and as a white person who lives a very privileged life. And So I know now that, and I realized this quite quickly, that the important thing is that this is not about me at all. So it's not important really what I do and that I do right. But then again, it is, because I have to take a stand. I have to speak up in support of diversity in our community of knitters and in this world. I cannot stick my head in the sand because it does not help anybody. And I really feel strongly that I really want to help to change things as best as I can, and that I want to be a part of a change, and I want to see this change happening. I am opposed to racism. I am also strongly opposed to, and I'm going to read this because I know otherwise I'm going to probably forget something. And I will make a conscious effort to support and to be a part of the change for a better community and for a better world where people do not suffer discrimination because of their race, because of their ethnicity, their gender, their religion, their sexual orientation, their gender identity, their body type, or their age. And I hope that you will be a part of this with me and that you will join me in supporting this movement. Telephone. I'm so sorry. Okay. There's no easy transition to the regular program, so I'm just going to jump right into the regular knitting content, which, yeah, I haven't talked to you in a while, so there is a lot to talk about. Sorry, I'm a little bit out of breath because I wish you could see the cat next to me in my basket of finished and in progress items and all of the things that I stuffed in there to share with you, because he was laying in the basket in the other room, and as I was trying to reach the phone to get to the phone, I thought, let's grab the basket right now. Well, let's see if he jumps out, what he does. But he let me schlep him in the basket over here to the sofa. And I was like, looking at me like, oh, what do you want? Oh, I guess I showed you after all. Hold on, I'm gonna wiggle you. Crazy cat. All right. Okay. So, 3 weeks again. What have I been doing? I have, for one, finished the socks that I showed you that I was working on for my husband, the ones where I held the yarn double, German sock yarn, and they are done. And I apologize, he's been wearing them, and you can tell. There you go. I love how these turned out. They are comfortable, he loves them, and I will make him another pair because, as I told you before, he used to not wear my handmade socks, but now he does, and it really makes me happy. So that's a great thing. Another sock object, another sock project that I was working on are my Christmas socks. This is the yarn. I bought it in Las Vegas. The yarn is by Pink Adobe Dye Works. Colorway Vintage Christmas North Pole. I bought that last October. And that's where I am. I usually do a heel flap. I knit my socks with 2.5 millimeter DP ends, and I always say 4 times 16 stitches because it's on the DP ends like that. So 64 stitches, and that's a good stitch count for me. I'm not sure if I'm gonna keep these for myself or if I'll give them to someone because I have a lot of socks. Do you? I am also participating in the knit along of my friend Tina Elfenwolle. She's a dyer of fiber for hand spinning. And Tina is hosting a hand spun, socks from hand spun yarn knit along in her group on Ravelry. And I decided to join. However, so here's the story. I have just, oops. I started, oh my goodness, this is so funny. So I had this yarn, which is a superwash merino, no nylon in there. And so my thought was to, because that was the only hand spun sock yarn that I had around already ready to go. So I thought, well, I'm probably not good without nylon for myself, but my tiny daughter, not tiny, but she's just, there's not a lot weight-wise going on her feet. So I was thinking, she's 17, so I was thinking that I could make these for her. However, what is going on right now is that I have worn my socks from hand spun yarn, and you may remember these. I made them, I think I finished them last November or December, so about a year ago. And I have, seriously, when they were ready and washed, ready to wear, I wore these a lot. So I was gonna do kind of like a test, because for the yarn for one sock was not plied as tightly as the yarn for the other sock, because I think I didn't have enough yarn, and so I knitted up everything that I had, and then I ended up spinning more, and that second batch was more tightly plied and twisted in itself. It's a 2-ply yarn that I spun. So I have been, I think it was a low nylon content of 15%, and the rest superwash merino, and I've been washing these in my washing machine, and on a low temperature, not a hand wash setting, not a wool setting. But for one, I've noticed that they still tend to felt ever so slightly. But then also, look what I noticed when I took them off last night, and I apologize. Yes, I have been wearing these, and they are not washed, because I felt like I gotta show them to you right now. So what I did was, I remembered it this way. So I marked on the back of the binding of the first sock, I marked sock 1, sock 2, so I remembered, because I remember, yeah, I know it's weird. I know, because I knew that the second bit of the yarn was more tightly plied, differently spun. So I thought, oh, that's going to be an interesting test. So this is sock 2. Here, can you see the heel? I hope. Nothing going on in the front. But check this out. My heel off the first sock. Clearly yesterday while I wore them, because before when I put them on, I did not see that. I almost wore through these socks. And I know the heel is going to be a stress point, because we are living in a very dry climate here in the desert, you tend to get rough calluses, I think that's the word, on your feet. So that's, my heel is definitely probably my worst stress point. And I think this will be the first time in many, many years that I will mend a pair of socks, just because I love these so very much. And I'm not going to let this go through. I'm probably going to do some weaving and reinforcing, and so I can get some more wear out of these, because they're beautiful. I also love the length. So see, it's a short cuff in reference to my hand, about as long as my fingers. Yeah. Yeah. That was an unexpected bad surprise. Okay, I made another something which is right now in the mail to Austria, and that is a pair of fingerless mitts for the mother of a friend. My friend lives in the US, but her family is in Austria, and the mom, and we always send something, little something for Christmas. She's a sweet woman, and she's going through some rough times right now. So I thought, what can I make for her that's a little more special than just a normal little Christmas gift? And my Christmas package was horribly delayed, but finally I finished my present, and I made her a pair of fingerless mitts from this beautiful yarn. Hold on. Straw. So her skin is super sensitive, so, and she likes blue. So the yarn is 100% Cormo, and this is so extremely nice and squishy. And see, I have the tag here is a tag from these people and from these people, and I'm never quite sure who does the dyeing. I don't quite understand, because one side of the tag says Bluebird Alpaca Ranch, and that is in Colorado, whereas the other side says Enchanted Fibers Guild LLC, and I think that is the company who does the processing. Maybe they do the painting also, hand painting of the yarn. So I bought this yarn a few years ago in Taos at the Wool Festival, and they sadly last October they told me that they were not coming back. So they've been there the past, I want to say 3 years, where I have noticed them and purchased yarns from them. So I'm sad. So, but those, like I said, those fingerless mitts are on the way, and I have made those with after my own knitting pattern, which, as you may remember, I published that as a free pattern just after around Thanksgiving as my personal thank you to the community. And it is a pattern that gives you different options, different needle sizes, different stitch counts to make it work for a lot of different yarns. Okay, those were the fingerless mitts. What else have I been working on? I need to, oh yes. Well, I will get to the most, I don't even know what to call it, the most crazy making story at the end. But I will tell you that what happened, what I will tell you about later, was the reason why I picked up. I needed a very simple and straightforward project where I did not need to think a lot. And that was what I picked up, ended up being my crochet blanket, where I'm pulling out the stitches right now because I have loose yarn hanging from it. I showed you this before, but I hadn't worked on it in a long time, and I called it my happy blanket because it's all made, it's using all hand-dyed fingering sock yarn, and so all the happy colors, bright colors. I'm gonna try to move it through the camera. Such a fun project, and yes, it grows very slowly. The corner that you did not see is this one, because I have already determined the width of the blanket. Let me lean back and see if that works for you. So I picked it up and I have worked on this for, I want to say 3 to 4 evenings, and it's really not fast growing because I put a marker, which by the way was a gift, Christmas gift from my friend Erica. Cute little progress keeper. And I think I may have done 2 rows more since I picked it up. So this is really not much, but it's highly addictive. So you take out 1, 2, 3 balls and you think, oh, just one more. Oh, just one more. Oh, just this little one. So yeah, it's, yeah, because it's so much fun to see how the colors play together. And it's a very rhythmic, soothing process. I'm using a European size 3 crochet hook. I think I have it here. But I have no idea what that would be in English. It's a nice one with the grip, with the handle. So on and off, I'm going to continue working on this, and I have brought out all my minis that I have gotten in swaps from a lot of Instagram friends and some Ravelry friends, and I wanted to show you how obsessive I was about sorting these, which it's kind of neat because you think of all your friends. Look at that. I have 2 towers of these. One of them, yeah, they're about the same height. And I marked everything with the names of the people that I have swapped with. And except for Bohemia Fibers, those were purchased minis. She dies after your photos. She's really extremely talented. And here is Debbie, whose name I misspelled. Sorry, Debbie. She spells herself with a Y. So, oh yes, and I thought what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab I can rotate these compartments with a minis from the people. And so I'm thinking I'm going to grab one mini from one person and then just put it on the bottom and then get to the next one and so forth. So I rotate. Yeah, but probably I should do that with my knitted blanket first. I'm not sure. Okay, I'll see how I do that because there's more yarn in another box over there. Okay, what else? I have finally started working on my white out shawl by Melanie Burke. That is a project that I'm doing for the knit along that I am hosting with Tina of Willkommen by Tina. It's a German podcast. And so we're hosting the platform where we chat and exchange our progress is on the Ziawoolz, is in the Ziawoolz group on Ravelry. And I was kind of lagging behind while everybody else had already started. I was talking about my yarn, I was talking about what I wanted to make, but I didn't start until just a few days ago. One of the reasons why I hadn't started was that I think I showed that last time. Oh, it's over there. It's my Kiviot that I had bought in Alaska last year that I wanted to combine with this. Which is a, I left the tags in the other room. So, well, both of these were the Kiviot and this were souvenir yarns. But then once I started reading the pattern, I realized that I am not going to be able to use, I mean, I'm not going to have enough Kiviot for the whole shawl because I wanted to make I don't know if you know the pattern, but it has 2 lace panels and a quite wide one at the edge where it's both those I wanted to use the Kiviot for, but my yardage, the yardage I need is not enough. So I decided, well, I'm gonna dye some lace yarn to complement the Kiviot, and that's what I did. It's a very good match, but it has a variation, whereas the Kiviot is solid. But this is an 80-20 lace, 80-20 merino silk, and what else did I want to tell you about it? I haven't decided yet because I have quite a few lace yarns in Ziawoolz as a Ziawoolz yarn, and yeah, how much lace yarn can you actually work with? Because it just takes you forever to knit it up. And so this one is going to be called Muse. My daughter gave it the name. So the base is going to be called Muse. And I will, for now, I'm going to dye up the batch that I ordered, and then I'll see if I keep it in stock or what's going to happen. But what else did I need to tell you? I don't know. But I can show you where I am. This is the front. Actually, it goes like this. I am usually not too much a fan, and that's me personally, of too high of a contrast in something like this. But I look at this, especially at night, where I'm thinking, dang, this is not enough contrast. But now I see it and I'm like, ah, it's okay. Daylight is different, and also on camera is different. And here's the other gold progress keeper that Erica gifted me. I don't know if you're watching, but if you are, thank you. I just love these two. So the original pattern asks for, the pattern asks for 3.5 or even 3.75, but it's for using with a lace yarn, and I started and then very quickly realized that I don't like the fabric that it makes. I mean, you know me, I'm a tight knitter, so I thought I can go down a needle size. Well, that makes no sense. If I would have the required gauge, then I would have to go up a needle size you choose bigger needles. Okay, whatever. I chose 3mm needles to get the fabric that I like. And I use Ziawoolz. This is growing very slowly, but that's okay. I just keep knitting, and I'm looking forward to the lace panel. I did want to show you the caveat in comparison to what I dyed. And the caveat is a hint darker, a hint more red in this, but that's okay. I think it'll work just fine. Talking about lace reminds me that I did want to tell you about the sweater that I'm wearing. It is called the Tolmi. I made it last year and finished it quite quickly. You can find all the information on my project page on Ravelry. I am PAPERDAG, and I really like this sweater very much. I have been wearing it a lot this winter, so I'm really glad I made it. The pattern is called Tolmi by Jose Paquin, and the yarns I used are Elspeth Lavold, held together with a yarn that I specifically dyed to match the original, the color of the commercial yarn, and so I could hold them together to get gauge. And it worked out very nicely. Good. That was the side note, especially since I just mentioned lace yarn. Here you have an option of how you can use lace. If your gauge doesn't work, hold your yarn with a lace yarn. Okay, what's next? Now my cat left the basket, so I have free access to what's in there. And I have another finished object. So this was another one of my long-term sock projects. Beautiful yarn by a German company. If you like this yarn, and I think who would not, I would highly recommend to check out her page. She has very, very reasonably priced hand-dyed yarns. And I'm not sure what the shipping is, but can't be too bad. I have made these with my usual random cuff length and on 2.5 millimeter DPNs. This size is, I believe, an 8.5, which for me means after the gusset, I knit roughly 70 rounds before I start my toe. It's just sock recipe how I learned from my grandma. So, finished object. Okay, I have, oh see, I have everything in this basket and the cat was laying on it. I had a bag with my sock yarn that I used for my husband's socks, but all the information is also in the last episode before this one. I also brought some more things that are new to my household, but before I do that, I must show you the blanket that my mom finished. Mom says hi. She has left a little bit over a week ago and went back to Germany, but she finished successfully the sock memory blanket for our daughter, who loves it. And this morning when I was up there, I grabbed the blanket from her bed and she's like, "Why are you taking my blanket?" I said, it's okay, you can have it back. It's just to show on the podcast. It's crazy how fast she knit this. I'm not even gonna try to show you this. I'm gonna put in a picture for you, but I did want to show you my personal favorite spot here. She got an advent calendar from a friend here in town who wanted to spoil her, and so she got a bunch of, well, she got an advent calendar full of minis, and she used them, of course, in the blanket. So I do know that these are Christmas yarns that were in there, and that's totally my favorite spot in the blanket. It stands out very much, and I just love it because it reminds me of Christmas and the good times. Yep. Successful finish. What next? Oh, another successful finish. Not the knitting kind, but I have this, I don't know what this is. I love this cute bag. And remember this, a totally deconstructed sweater and a totally deconstructed yarn. So with a lot of, let's say, unhappy words being the company while we did this, we did every day, we did like 1 or 2 balls of yarn, unplied them. I tried to unply on the spinning wheel before we actually wound each ball, but I could just never get it right. So it really was a lot of work, but it's done now. And oh, this is so gorgeous. Can you see that halo? So beautiful. So I have a lot of little bits because of the crochet and the seams, so I kept it all. And I am thinking when I will not, because of the fuzz, it's going to connect very well. So I'm not going to just weave in, but as I'm knitting, I will, once I start working with this, I will just ply two ends, twist two ends together, and hopefully that's going to be a good way that'll save me a lot of weaving in ends. So I haven't even weighed this. This whole thing is full. I'm glad that is done. That was a pain in the you-know-what. Okay, I have some fun plans, as I always do. Then you never hear of them again, of the projects. But I may have told you that I have friends who are expecting a baby, and so I know that I will want to make something super special for them. And I mean, you can always make a little garment that's super fun, but also they are so connected to Iceland. That made me think of Shetland, and so I'm thinking I should probably make them something like a blanket or a hat, or like, you know, like those christening blankets, but not that lacy. That would take me 5 years. But I have some yarn, and actually that yarn was some that I bought at Maryland Sheep and Wool Festival last year, where I thought later, it's not really my thing, and I don't really have enough for a whole garment. And you know me, I'm on the bright colors, but I wanted this because it was just so beautiful, and it is Cormo, which, as you may know, is a very soft sheep fiber with a lot of crimp. So this has a nice squish effect. I have already wound one of the skeins, and I can tell you what it is. It comes from Ensign Brook Farm. And here's the tag. It was a pricey yarn, but you know how it is when you have friends who are special to you, and then you think about it, and you're like, yeah, no, I'm not going to take some cheap stuff, whatever, even if I wanted to make something from this yarn for myself. Well, what am I going to do? I never wear white stuff, and I like much more to knit with colorful yarns. So that was my reasoning behind this. So I have altogether 4 skeins. Oh, hold on. How much? What's my yardage? I don't know. I'll tell you when I'm working on it. But I already printed out one pattern, which is an option. Lovelicious Hat by Raina Cruz. What a beautiful name, Raina. And, yep, no, I thought I had another one printed out, but no, I did not buy another pattern, or I was considering, and I did not find anything perfect. And I thought, I want to explore this subject a little bit more with the hat and the square shawls and blankets, so I bought myself a book. Absolutely beautiful book. Very, very great information in it to learn about shawls, about Shetland lace, and a lot of patterns in there that are charted. And one thing that I've missed, sadly, is corners. So I mean, maybe it's just me. I have to look at it again, but because there is a square, but I don't see. I don't see that it really has a corner, but that is, you know, when you work, I think the construction that I am aiming for will be a square. And I already learned from this fabulous book that because my yarn is not a lace yarn, but a heavier weight, I should knit that piece in stockinette. But then I will, see, I was thinking I'm gonna have a corner like this, where it has kind of like a spine, but that's what I haven't found yet. And then I was looking into applied lace and applied lace edging, and I came upon this one YouTube channel where the lady explains it so nicely, even with graphs, on how you can shape these corners by I'm such a newbie in this, but when you pick up your stitches around your corner, you pick up more than you would on a straight edge out of one stitch. It's not a short row, but it's essentially then a short row. And she draws it up so nicely. I will put that information on here for you in case you're interested. It's really very, very cool. So stay tuned, because that baby will be arriving in March. So I gotta get cracking on this. And I want to make something else for the baby, which is a hat. And this also has a funny story that I need to tell you briefly. When my goddaughter, the first kid of a friend in Germany, was born, my friend said, oh, I said, I'm going to knit you something. So I knitted, I can't remember. But my friend said, I would love to have one of those hats that you find in the health food stores. They're kind of all organic wool and whatnot. But it's a special pattern and they're called Teufelsmütze, where you have one V of the fabric goes into the forehead of the baby, and then the V goes over the ears. I hope I will be able to unearth a picture of my daughter wearing one of these hats. So I just gave it away that I did find the pattern. But when my friend asked for it in the first place, I said, oh yeah, no problem. I'm going to take a look at the hat and then I'm going to figure it out. I was so insanely cocky. I deserve to be humbled and put in my place, because when I looked at those hats, I think my friend had bought one, or I went to a store and looked at one. I could not figure out how it is done. So of course I was really then stoked to figure it out and to find out how this is done. And this is it's a brioche stitch. And in the end, I found not the pattern for the hat, but just the stitch pattern in a vintage knitting book, stitch pattern book, and in a used bookstore, but I found it. So this you cannot figure out. So I've made many of these hats. I mean, several of these hats, and I still to this day cannot do it just from memorizing it. I still have to look at the instructions. So I just pulled these out. I thought I'm going to make a hat, and in fact, I would like to spin some yarn. It's a pink fiber. My spinning wheel is ready. My fiber is ready. It's pink and it has a silk content, and so that's what I think I will use for this. I will show you hopefully next time. What's next? I did want to mention that the giveaway is still open for the beautiful Penny Pearls pullover pattern. My friend Vicky Davixa Designs, she designed it, and it is, you can still enter. I'm going to keep it open. What's today? Friday. I think I'm going to close that thread on Monday, and then for the giveaway, but enter. So the whole weekend you still have time to enter the giveaway for this. Tell me what you like about the pullover, or what you would like to use to make it. So I have also, in regards to another pattern, I have announced to you a new hat pattern which will be published for free. It will be called 3, because that's how it started off for me, by holding together 3 yarns. And I just wanted to show you the yarns that I am about to work with next. So this one was a Lana Grossa wool alpaca polyamide blend. Then I have this, which I believe is a I think this may be an acrylic, but it's just a beautiful color. So I hope I'm gonna have enough of it. And then there is this. Oh my gosh, where's the tag? I can't believe I can't remember this now. I will look it up and put it right here. I'm ready to work with my broomstick needles. They're 9mm, and those are the ones that I plan to use. If this is too fat, which it may be, I will use this held double. Excuse me. So that was the other pattern that I meant to talk about. I have already started writing it up. I have already taken pictures, and you may have noticed them if you've looked at my feed in my project page. My daughter, who also received a hat in that pattern, I took some really nice pictures with her on a day where it was snowing. Her hat is white, and just beautiful pictures. She's just such a great model. It's always fun to take pictures of her. And then I wanted to show you, oh my goodness, I can't believe it. Oh, this is so chaotic. I apologize. It's too much at once. I wanted to show you these 2 yarns, which are a discontinued base of Ziawoolz. That's a 50-50 wool alpaca blend. And this was my thought, because traditionally you could make a solid center of a hap, this, and then stripe the edging, and wouldn't that be cool? So these 2 skeins were kind of more dull colors, a duller great green. This was a dull beige brown. And yeah, I've spiced them up a little bit, and I think they might work. I just hope that the Ziawoolz yarn is not too heavy in comparison to this, but I will see. Okay. Let me make sure this time that I'm not forgetting anything. And there you go. There was one more new yarn that came to this house that I meant to show you. And this is it. Oh, I love it so much. Oops, sorry. Amy dyed this. Amy of the Periscoping Sisters. And it has a fuzzy halo from Cat. It's for me, so it won't matter. And this is gonna be perfect to go with it because can you see the pink speckles? And this is a Miss Babs Advent mini skein. Oh, so great. My friends know me so well. I love her. I don't know if you've ever gotten any of her yarns. She only occasionally dyes non-repeatable colorways, but I don't know why. I never ordered anything. Maybe I was always too slow. But I just love it. But anyways, what I wanted to say is that Amy's yarns are beautiful, and Amy, I just love your tag. Thank you for this. Okay, I think now I'm really ready to show you the big, how did I call it? The epic fail from New Year's, from Christmas Falala to New Year's fail. Actually, I had two. So one of them, and I think you all need to know these things, that even as a quite experienced dyer, I can call myself that, I sometimes still screw up. And if that happens, do call me out. Do call any indie dyer out, because we want to know and we need to know. In this case, I found out myself. What I did was I overdyed a skein of hand-spun mohair in this beautiful, beautiful blue. And my plan was originally to use this for my friend's mom in Austria for her fingerless mitts. I started working with this, and what happened was after I dyed, it was dyed in a pale pink and a pale blue, and I had already made things out of that original color, and I got tired of it. So I thought, I need to spice this up. And well, I just talked about the other skein, so you know I do this sometimes. So I overdyed. I like the color, but as you can see, very saturated, but a fine yarn. So I started making this. It bled like crazy when I started working with it. It turned my hands blue while I was knitting. This bit, I could tell. So I was trying to figure out in my head what happened, and I'm thinking that the reason was that it already was saturated with dye, and when I overdyed it, I probably had too much dye in the bath, and it was just, it was too much dye to handle. And I did rinse it, and I remember noticing that it still gave off a little bit of dye in the wash. But I thought once the mitts are done, I'm gonna rinse them again, but obviously it would have been way too much bleeding. And so I gave up on this, and I learned my lesson to really, really, maybe in this case, I did not measure my dye. I was not really paying attention. I had a small amount of yarn. It already had been dyed. And because I don't think I forgot the citric acid, which you need. You need yarn, you need water, you need citric acid in your water, and you need heat to set your acid dyes on an animal fiber. And yeah, I'm thinking I just put way too much dye into that dye bath. So lesson learned, take a little bit more care, even if it's just for yourself and if it's not really that important if you mess up, because when you mess up and you work on something, it's still annoying, even if it's for yourself. First fail, but the really big one, I'm going to tell you now. So what you remember the shawl that the whiteout Melanie Berg pattern, which I did not, I wanted to, last episode I talked about that I wanted to start on it very soon, but then I didn't. And the reason was that, and I think I told you that too, that my son had said, I really thought I was going to get a sweater for Christmas. So I picked up the yarn. I started figuring out stitch count, needle size, and whatnot with the yarn that I had purchased last year in Germany. It is a chain constructed, chain construction yarn, that's it, by the company Lana Grossa, and it's called Landlust. Two great colors, gray and a dark gray and a light blue, looks super together, beautiful to work with, very soft. And I figured out what I wanted was, and I'm showing you pictures, I wanted he said he wanted stripes. He's 19, so he can ask for something, and I'm not going to be too bossy about what I make, but I thought, well, how can we make these stripes a little less boring? I want this sweater to have a slightly vintage touch, so I'm going to put some kind of I'm going to blend the stripes together with a stitch pattern. So I was so happy with how this turned out, the way my vision put into reality. I knitted so monogamously on that sweater. It was great, looked great. I had a problem with one sleeve. While it started wider than you would start a woman's sleeve. And I made it all up, by the way. I had finished the sleeve, but it was too wide in the front. So it was like, started wide, and even though I decreased, it was still, I didn't like that. So that was a quick fix. But I thought, because what happened was he looked at the sweater and he said, that's a lot of texture, a lot of bumpiness where in that transition stripe. I don't know if I like that. So I said, this is not going to be as bumpy. It's just going to be more like a color variation in between. I don't think it's going to be a problem. So once I was finished with the sleeve and determined that it needs to be frogged and redone, I thought, well, I'm just going to undo part of the sleeve, and then I'm going to wash it and lay it out and make sure that it really lies flat. Okay, said and done. So hand wash while the yarn is what the heck? I thought this means machine washable. What have I done? I have to look up all the signs. I mean, seriously, I could have sworn I bought a yarn that is machine washable, but now I look at the tag and I'm thinking this. Okay, my phone was full. Sorry, I had to do some tech stuff. So I showed you the labels and I was telling you about washing the sweater to see that whether it looks nice and all after washing. I hand washed it, even though the original intent was to use a yarn that was machine washable, so nothing bad would ever happen to the sweater when he washes it himself. And so nothing happens if he accidentally throws it in with the rest of his laundry. So I washed it, laid it out to dry, flattened out nicely, pattern looked great, everything great, but I thought, it grew a little bit. So I gave it to him to try on and to see if he liked it. He puts the thing on and the sweater has grown so much more than I had seen that literally the neckline, he could have pulled the thing down over his shoulders. That's how big this normal neckline, something like this, grew. Okay, I thought, what do I do? I thought, well, maybe with how the yarn is constructed with a kind of like an I-cord thing. I'll show you that. Can you see? Yes, I think you can. I thought maybe due to this construction, it can use a little bit of drying in the dryer. I have a gentle setting, which of course I used. So I pull the sweater through the water again, squeeze out the water, throw it in the dryer, turn on the dryer, walk away, and then it took a long time because it was not, I mean, the water wasn't spun out, you know. And I thought, well, at some point I thought, wow, why is this not beeping? Did I turn on the buzzer? It should be done by now. But it had just been so very wet that it took a long time. But once, I laugh already ahead of time, you're not going to believe this. Once I opened the dryer, what I pulled out was this. Can you tell how tiny this is? Oh my gosh. You see what happened? It felted. Oh my goodness. It wasn't even dry at that point. I laughed. I just laughed. I couldn't be angry or anything. It just, I don't know what would have happened if he had used it, if he had thrown it in the wash. Maybe it would have felt it in the wash. Who knows? But, I mean, whatever. I thought it was so interesting that I'm not the kind of person that gets angry or upset like a little Rumpelstiltskin. It was just, I laughed. Yeah. Well, 2-3 days later, I was back at my yarn store and I had already purchased, a while before, I had purchased some Barocco vintage. I don't even know if you remember that. It's been so long, but I can't. Oh yeah. So I bought a dark gray and the Barocco vintage and a blue, but this blue looks like a nice blue when you look at it like this, but I was thinking, so that was, by the way, the first plan, when I first planned to make a sweater for my son, and I wanted to use this yarn. Then I had planned to hold the two yarns together and knit them up kind of like a Marley thing. But when you look at it, the gray and that blue together, and I had the gray a skein here, I thought. Oh no, it can't be a skein. I traded it. Okay, but definitely look at this. This blue reads purple. A little bit already in the ball, but not so much, but definitely in combination with this gray. So that's why I discarded this option. But now I came back to it and I thought, well, I'm just going to exchange this color, the skeins that I had, because I had a sweaters quantity. And so I thought I'm going to see if I find a lighter blue like the one that I used in the felted one. And but then I went to the yarn store and saw that they have a Barocco Vintage Chunky. And so I exchanged for that to use this from the get-go and not to hold two together. And my son said he would like stripes, so this time, no experiments. I'm just going to knit him the sweater in stripes. Fat stripes. And I haven't, even though I got these a few days ago, I haven't yet started because I just need to do a little bit, get back to the drawing board and do a little bit of math again, because I used 7mm needles for the felted version, and this one, the recommended needle size is 6mm. I have just recently updated the shop, the Ziawoolz Etsy shop, and if you are in the market for buying yarn, stick around because I wanted to show you some of the yarns and one braid of fiber that's in the shop right now that I just added there. Spinning fiber, a mystery braid over dyed natural colors. True Love on Dreamcatcher. The Beekeeper's Daughter on Sandia. Beekeeper in the Garden on Sandia. The Beekeeper's Son on Sandia. And some of these I have on different bases in the shop. And just, if you think those were the same, they're not. Much more green on the Beekeeper's Son. On Dreamcatcher, Promise. The Beekeeper's Boyfriend on Sandia. Rocky Shores on Dreamcatcher. Two Sugarloaf colorways. The dark is a Wild Dog One of a Kind. And this is Never Too Many Pumpkins. Lovely orange. This is my 100% superwash merino that has a lot of yardage, about 550. And I have two more pinks of this in the shop. This is called, oh, so boring, Just Pink. I mean, so boring is what I say. Just Pink is the colorway. And this is called Square Dance. Boomtown. If you remember, I recently knitted a shawl where I used this. The original Beekeeper colorway on Roadrunner singles. And the Beekeeper on Sandia. So I have almost all the Beekeeper colorways in the shop right now. Dancing Dog on Roadrunner. and on Duke, which is the worsted. Water World. Subtle light blues. This is a one of a kind. I have 2 of these on Sundancer, and I really, really like this. It was just 2 place gains that turned out amazing. And last but not least, one of my personal favorites. I don't know, it doesn't seem to have too many other fans because it's kind of like, look at it from the distance and it's a little dull, but it literally has all the colors in it when you look at it in good lighting. So beautiful. It's called Wind Song on Dreamcatcher. And this now truly is it. Thank you for watching. I'm looking forward to chatting with you again in the near future. Hope you're all well. Happy knitting. Bye-bye.